everyone, my name is Brandon Presley, and today I'm going to be talking about animals in research, operant conditioning basics, and punishment. So let's jump right into it. Hey everyone, let's start with animals in research. Here I have the 3 R's in animal research: replacement, reduction, and refinement. Replacement is when you replace animals with non-animal methods. Reduction is when you minimize the number of animals being used within a research topic. Refinement is when you refine the test that is being done to help promote animal welfare. Down here are some alternatives for animal research. Here we have computer simulations, physical simulations, and in vitro models. In vitro models are researchers' ability to get down to a microscopic level and use cell cultures in test tubes and petri dishes. Physical simulations are so that researchers can use tissues and organs that can allow scientists to conduct hands-on experiments without animals. The same goes for computer simulations, except this runs through computers and they can create very accurate simulations and be run repeatedly. These alternatives can be very inadequate because they aren't 100% accurate, which is why researchers insist on using animals for research. The Animal Welfare Institution is an institution that helped pass the Laboratory Animal Welfare Act that was passed by Congress in 1966. It's important to have institutions like this so that they can oversee researchers that are trying to use animals. This can be very bad for people who have pets, and people steal those pets in order to sell them to researchers so that they can be used. These institutions also make sure that the research is more humane and the animals being tested on are treated correctly and safely. I believe when it comes to research like this, we should use human trials instead of animals, but only if the risk isn't too high. I think if researchers feel that the risk is too high and can put somebody in danger, they should not do the test and should find or go through simulations instead to find less risky research tests to make it so that humans can be used for these tests. Let's move on to operant conditioning. Classical conditioning and operant conditioning are commonly confused as kind of the same thing because the same thing is kind of resulted. Classical conditioning is a learning process that occurs when 2 stimuli are repeatedly paired, also followed by a response. Once these stimuli become so illicit, the first stimuli becomes unconditioned and the response becomes unconditioned by that stimuli. For example, whenever my dog barks, shortly after somebody probably knocks on the door, which causes me to stand up. The 2 unconditioned stimuli would be my dog barking and somebody following up, knocking on the door, and me having to get up. Eventually, my dog barking automatically makes me stand up even though nobody knocks on the door afterwards. Operant conditioning is a method of learning through reinforcement and punishment. Positive reinforcement is when a child is getting a good grade in the class and you end up increasing his allowance. Negative reinforcement is when the child wants to get out of getting in trouble, so he'll clean his room so that his dad won't come in and yell at him. Punishment, on the other hand, positive punishment is when you spank your kid because they did something bad, which increases their behavior and has them act right. Negative punishment is when you take away a child's allowance because he's getting a bad grade in a class. In my personal experience, my dog has found a way to use operant conditioning on me, actually. This is my dog right here. She likes to sit just like that right in front of me when she wants to go out. And when I first got her, I didn't realize what she was doing at first, so I would just kind of laugh at her because she kind of looked a little funny when she was just sitting up, kind of like a human. So she would eventually come up to me and start kind of jumping on me and kind of scratching at me to get me to get up, and eventually I found out that every time she sat up like that, she wanted to go outside. So now every time she sits up like that, I know that she wants to go outside, and that's how she basically trained me to get her to take her out. The law of effects is just like operant conditioning, and this principle was developed by Edward Thorndike. He states that when in a situation you get a satisfying result, you're more likely to do that action again in the same situation. And vice versa with the negative situation, if you do something and it makes you uncomfortable, or there's like a negative stimulation to it, you're less likely to ever do that again in the same situation that you're in. Now let's move on to punishment. There are many problems with punishment, such as escaping, aggression, apathy, abuse, and imitation of the punisher. Escaping would be like a child getting hit at home all the time and them wanting to escape the physical abuse that's going on and them running away from home. Aggression is when you're being abused and this makes you act out towards your siblings or anybody, like maybe just even getting in a fight at school because you just have all this built up anger. Apathy is when I would say a teacher tells a student to stop asking stupid questions and that student now just doesn't even talk in class. Abuse would be when your parent or somebody is punishing you so often that it becomes very violent and can lead to broken ribs or something even worse. Imitation of the punisher is when you start doing what the punisher has been doing to you. So if you are getting slapped at home, this might lead you to slap your girlfriend or your siblings or even get in fights at school. Knowing that punishment has its consequences, you want to use alternatives other than punishment. So when talking about a 10-year-old child who mistreats the family dog, you might want to use the alternative differential reinforcement of incompatible behavior. This behavior or this reinforcement is when the child is treating the dog fairly and correctly, and so you reinforce that child with, I don't know, candy, I guess you could do, or whatever you want. Thanks for listening to my presentation. I hope you learned a lot about animals in research, operant conditioning basics, and punishment. See you next time.